Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Daily Detroit, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan, coming to you from our studio at TechTown in beautiful Detroit, Michigan. I am Jer Stays. It is Thursday, July 18th, 2024, and across the table from me is none other than the Prince of Brightmoor himself,
Norris Howard. We back once again, man. Another day, another dollar. What's up, Detroit?
I mean, I would like more than $1.
Yeah.
Usually that's, you know, if you'd like to support us, patreon.com/dailydetroit. Even if it's at $1 a month, you get access to our members-only Discord.
We would like more than $1, but hey.
We'll take it. You know what? $10, you get a rocks glass.
See, there you go. Right there. $10 and you get some swag.
Yeah, exactly. Today's episode is kind of in two parts. First part, we're going to go through 3 stories, talk about around town you might be interested in. And then on the back end, we are talking to the organizers of Detroit Coffee Week, a caffeinated conversation, sir. I'm so glad you had them in.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So let's jump right into it.
100%. So I know that a lot of our listeners are travelers.
Yes.
And very interested in what happens in Detroit Metro Airport. In fact, did you know that I think among the most searched things in Metro Detroit consistently is all about the airport and what's happening at the airport?
Because it's one of the most fantastic airports on the face of planet Earth.
And you're not even just like making that up and being a booster.
No, I'm not. It's actually one of my favorite airports on the face of planet Earth.
And you actually get to travel out of there quite a bit. What do you like about it specifically before we get into the news?
I'll be honest. Number one is the design of it. If you've done any traveling in America and you've gone to any airport built within, between the years of 1955 and 2002, you know that they're all built with this weird hub spoke kind of thing where there's this weird area in the middle and then there's these weird spokes and sometimes you got to take a shuttle to get to the other terminal. Airports are built terribly in America for the most part. And the McNamara terminal in Detroit Airport in DTW is just magnificent. It is just a straight line. That's it. I'm lost. I don't know where to go. That way. Just the other way.
You're talking about being circular and lost, and I can't help but think about the red hot topic of the rents. And welcome all you new listeners who showed up for that one. But the circular design sometimes confuses people.
It does. And, I just think simplifying the design of the airport, and by the way, also having a tram for those who may be handicapped or those who can't necessarily walk the entire length of the terminal, or they don't want to, which is me a lot of times. And, a lot of moving sidewalks, and the restaurants there are amazing. It consistently ranks as a top airport in the country, if not the world, not just in my opinion, but by, Forbes, and I believe it was what's the people, JD Power, they rank a lot of stuff.
I mean, somebody ranked it somewhere,
yeah,
right?
It's always ranked very highly. So now they're going to improve it even more.
Yeah, the new news is that there will be $38 million spent to spruce up the McNamara terminal, new restrooms, upgraded jet bridges, and revamped baggage carousels. $28 million of that is going to be coming from the federal bipartisan infrastructure law, and Wayne County Airport Authority is chipping in the rest. The first set of new restrooms opened near gate A10 in late June, and there's going to be a lot more changes, more flights, all that kind of thing. So good news for travelers. We know we got a lot of travelers in the audience. Next up, we're going to stay in the transport. In fact, you know what? All 3 stories have something tangentially to do with transportation. The Detroit People Mover coming this September. The 3-mile downtown loop is going to be pausing. Track replacements. Some of the 37-year-old tracks need work. Starting after Labor Day, the People Mover is shutting down for 11 weeks. The plan is to open up before Thanksgiving. It is a $5 million project funded by federal and state grants. Apparently, 7,000 feet of rail are getting swapped out. If you divide that by 2, that's close to a mile. It's a 3 mile. Yeah, it's like a third of the things getting swapped out.
Sure, fine. You know how I feel. I've made my feelings very known on the People Mover.
Okay, so I got to give you a little pushback on that, because last time we talked about the People Mover, I got lit up by people mad that you ignored folks with disabilities and others who have trouble getting around there. They feel like there's a lot of people who do in fact need it and use it.
No, that's fine, and you can use it. I just still think for the vast majority of human beings, it sucks, and there's no reason for you to use it. Am I saying tear it down and get rid of it altogether? No, fine. For those who have issues getting around, it is a positive. For me and most of the population, it's because it's a half-assed idea. That's why.
So I would actually, one, if we're going to keep it, I'd like to see it expanded. Two, I keep thinking about this every time I get on the Q line, and I'm sorry, my Q line friends.
It is. Well, that's a half-baked idea, too.
Well, here's the thing. I can't help but think, and I used to think very differently on this, but in a city like ours, which is so car-centric, you need to have separated rail or elevated rail so people can see the train car whizzing past them and go, I want to go on that because it's faster.
I disagree.
And I feel like if you did it elevated down these things, you would have a lot more people who would use it. Because the biggest complaints from both of these things is that it moves too slow and it doesn't go enough places.
I mean, I feel you, but I disagree because number one, that's just financially not feasible right now. And I just think we have streets that are
everything's financially not feasible right now.
We have streets that are way too large for the amount of people we have in the city.
I don't disagree, but that's why I said, but then separate it.
Transit.
That's what I said. Separate it, though.
Yeah, no, but you said great separation, which means it's elevated off
one or the other.
ground.
You can't do it everywhere, but one or the other.
Nah, I think you could do it just like how they got it in San Francisco. It is all street level. Their entire tram system is street level.
Yeah, but a lot of our tram system is street level here, but it's constantly slow and stopped and everything else.
Yeah, but if you have it citywide, now you got to change the lights. So if you change the lights, then you give the
and
train,
center running it.
Yeah, you center run it so the train has priority.
Transit, bus, police vehicles, HOV. Make it so that only certain people can use that lane.
Like literally only certain things can use that lane. And you talk about Grand River. Okay, get rid of the turning lane and have that be the tram lane. Whatever.
Well, somewhere like Grand River, there's so much space.
There's a lot of space.
Oh my gosh, Grand River in the city. Yeah.
All that, do it there. But my gripe with the people mover isn't that it has no use case. That's not what I'm saying. I don't like it because I don't like half-baked ideas. And I think both the Q line and the people mover are half-baked. And so if you somehow fix that and stretch it across the entire city or maybe even the entire region, my opinion would change.
See, I feel like a step forward where that even would be stretching it to the top tourist destinations. So if we're going to say it's a tourist thing, making it hit all the top tourist destinations, at least as a first step.
It needs to, so it should stretch to Belle Isle. It should stretch through Corktown. It should go all the way up. I think the Q line still really should go up to at least Royal Oak at bare minimum. And out on the spokes, Grand River, Gratiot, Michigan Avenue. It should go to Greenfield Village.
You know how often I would be in Ferndale or Royal Oak if I could hop on that?
That's what I'm saying. Or how many more people might even go to something like Greenfield Village if they knew they could just hop on public transportation and get there on one train.
Total aside, Greenfield Village, or actually the Henry Ford, has an exhibit on historic diners, and I want to go so bad.
See?
I do want to go.
See?
And that's not sponsored. They give us no money.
And if you could walk right out of your neighborhood onto the Q line, you go down the Q line, you get your transfer to the Michigan Avenue line. Yeah, it's going to take you a little bit longer, but guess what? It would have been a whole day event. You would have had a great time.
I'd be coming off of there with like a little like train conductor hat.
Yeah.
I'd be like, ding, ding.
Yeah, and that's
people would just laugh at me. It'd be fine.
But that's the thing. We need to do more stuff like
and the final bit that I want to talk about before we get into the Detroit Coffee Week conversation, Crane's Detroit Business is reporting that Stellantis is looking at a former golf course near the old Ford Romeo engine plant for a 2.7 million square foot Mopar parts distribution center. This mega hub would consolidate a number of facilities, including those in Warren and Centerline. So this would basically take things from around the region, stick it out at 32 Mile Road in Washington Township. Local officials are very interested in this because, frankly, a decommissioning of a nearby factory has hurt them. There are definitely some economic issues out there. Construction is already underway even before all the final approvals, apparently. This is going to happen, I think, one way or another. All right, we're going to keep sprawling, aren't we? We're going to keep doing 32 Mile Road.
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of is really disappointing to me. Because, listen, everybody deserves economic opportunity. To me, this has nothing to do with, dissing Romeo or Macomb County or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying here. But my issue is that There are so many other places to put this. There are so many other places. And on top of that, we keep talking about economic opportunity and we keep talking about providing jobs for people in Southeast Michigan and specifically in the city. And yet we still keep putting stuff on 32 mile, 31 mile, 28 mile. What are we talking about here, man? What are we doing?
Residentially among the fastest growing areas of the region out there. And I look at this and I worry that in some inner suburbs, not all, we're going to repeat the same mistake that we did in Detroit where we don't grow. Because this is a consolidation. This is not growth.
No.
This is consolidation where we don't grow and we keep moving things. And what I worry is that same kind of like locust mentality is, and you can see it in parts of some of the suburbs. I don't mean to throw shade on him, but like you can see where that same vacancy pattern is continuing. I just don't think it's necessarily healthy.
No, and that would be different, and the energy around it would be different. And honestly, I think the opportunities would be different if that consolidation was moving in. If we saw those sort of fringe businesses on the outskirts of Metro Detroit started to push in and in and in and in to where now we have additional density, additional opportunity for a lot of these businesses, I feel like you and I would feel very differently about this. And I'm not just talking about like putting it in the city proper. I'm just saying, even if we wanted to put something, in Rochester or Novi or whatever, I'm just saying closer, right?
Well, the Metro Detroit region has not grown in population significantly since 1970. So much land that we're developing, which makes it hard to do all the other things we want to do when you have the same amount of people, but having to cover more land, everything gets more expensive. This is a math problem, man.
It's a math problem, and that's my issue. And I don't understand why certain companies and certain municipalities don't understand this. Like,
well, I get why Washington Township wants it because they're going to benefit.
Well, yeah, they're going to benefit, but I'm just talking about just in terms of the region in and of itself and the lack of cooperation amongst it, because we are going to keep having this issue until eventually it's going to be unaffordable and untenable for almost anyone to live in the region, because you're going to have to be a millionaire in order to have a 3-bedroom house and a little bit of land.
Well, I think about this even from like a commuting point of view. I saw a statistic that Metro Detroit is near the top of super commuting metro areas. That is because you do this consolidation, great. And, union jobs, people, have cars, all that other stuff. But I think about the time and the psychic energy of, okay, you're far east 32 Mile Road. Mm-hmm. You're adding so much time to everything and how much you're shifting everything. And I don't think we really comprehend those costs when we're talking about this stuff. I don't think the mainstream media does. I think we're probably one of the only outlets in Metro Detroit that even stops for 5 seconds and goes, maybe we shouldn't have such a long of a commute. And I'm not even talking about traffic. I'm just talking about time.
No, it is time, because that's less time you're spending money. Like, let's just be honest with it. If your commute is 20 minutes and you can get back to the crib that quickly, you got more time to spend money.
I think about spending time with the people you love.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about economics, right?
Okay.
Like, I'm taking my feelings out of it, talking about economics. If I could get back to and fro and back to the crib in 20 minutes, that's more time for me to spend money. That's more time for my kids to spend money. That's more time for the entire families to be going out to dinner, to be going to the parks, to be doing all the things that people should be doing in cities in order to make them run. But if we are all stuck in the freaking car because we have to drive to 32 Mile to go to work, and you live in Ferndale, you live in Pontiac, or you live in, Lord forbid, even further, Livonia.
Just imagine Canton.
Right, Canton, right? You got to drive an hour to get to work. What are we doing? What are we doing here, folks? I'm not even like this super huge, like, density advocate like many of our peers in the city and that come on the show are. But at the same time, that this math continues to not math, y'all.
Well, I would love to hear your feedback on any of these. dailydetroit@gmail.com. Let's get into this conversation about Detroit Coffee Week. Joining me at the table at TechTown, along with my colleague Norris Howard, is a pair of people that are going to get us a little hyped, a little caffeinated, if you will, for this episode. If you do not have coffee in your hand, maybe you should, because we're going to be talking about Detroit Coffee Week. To my left, Emily Hawkinson, Director of Sales and Education for Dessert Oasis. You are the mind behind Detroit Coffee Week. Welcome to Daily Detroit.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. And across the table from me, Lucas Powell, general manager of said Dessert Oasis, but also number one hype man for this thing. So good to meet you. Welcome to the studio.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having us.
So why Detroit Coffee Week? Because you're both involved with your business and things that you're doing. Why spearhead something like Detroit Coffee Week?
A lot of us travel outside of the state to go to competitions, go to expos, whether we're going there for learning opportunities or just to compete. We are connecting with folks around the United States. And I was in Louisville last year and I met Claudio Martinez. He is the mind behind SoFlo Coffee Collective, which is like a collective of coffee enthusiasts. And like basically he throws coffee parties in Florida. And he was like, we need to do something in Detroit. And we're just like, he's, this like big old beautiful man, got a straw hat on, a scar in his mouth. And he just like is so excited to be a coffee man. When he brought up that idea, I was like, who is this guy? And why does he want to have a party with us in Detroit? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, let's do it. Then the thought and like the idea was just kind of there. And then we saw each other again in November and he was like, so what about Detroit Coffee Week? You want to do it? And I was like, okay, here we go. And just to be able to like bring what he's doing in Florida and like bring that idea to the North, I'm really excited about it.
So for those who may not understand, because, we hear things like Fashion Week or Restaurant Week. And
Sure.
really that just involves a bunch of people going to a bunch of restaurants and, having parties. But with Detroit Coffee Week, it's a lot more involved in that. It's more than just tastings and going to coffee shops. Like, explain a little bit about what is actually happening during Coffee Week, which, by the way, is July 22nd through the 27th.
Yes.
At various coffee shops, but
Yes.
also you'll be able to check it out at Dessert Oasis. But tell us about some of the events that are going on next week.
The origin of the idea to be able to like bring a week of events, that's kind of how it started. And then as we were, these ideas were evolving, we started talking about how we had access to all this information. And Dessert Oasis, our headquarters in Ferndale, we have this like massive training lab that we do host like different external classes and stuff, but we have the opportunity to be able to bring folks into our space and offer education and offer information for free, thanks to like sponsors and Dessert Oasis for opening the space and some different cafes as well. We just really want to offer information and education to everyone and make it accessible to all folks. A lot of people working in specialty coffee don't make a wage that's enough to send them to be able to travel and learn and experience these things on a larger scale. So for us to be able to bring our resources into Detroit and offer that to baristas and different specialty coffee professionals for free is really exciting for us.
And you're working with other coffee purveyors in town and things like that. It's not just a Dessert Oasis thing. What is the idea behind this kind of collaborative push?
Sure.
Yeah, with any artisan craft, people may not think of coffee or working in coffee as an artisan craft, but it is as much as, music or photography or anything like that. A lot of people get into coffee just starting as a barista in a cafe, making, minimum wage or making beverages for people who come in every single day. And they don't realize the vast amount of opportunities there are in coffee, but they also don't really have accessibility to education or resources or really anything to learn beyond their equipment that's in front of them on a daily basis. So the whole reason we're partnering with other people, the whole reason we're bringing this in is the goal of creating that accessibility and also recognizing that a coffee community like our coffee community here in Detroit is its strongest when we all are doing well. We serve a very specific, we almost refer them as like a clientele of people on a daily basis that are within walking distance or driving distance of our cafes. And that's true for the probably 100 of cafes that are across the Metro Detroit area. So a huge part of this is recognizing that although like we're all in the same business sector, people go to different spots to get different cups of coffee, right? The more that we can give that equipping and that education to people across the area, the more enthusiasm there is, the more well-educated people making your coffee and able to just support the community as a whole.
When people who are really into coffee, and I'm talking about more than just like going and getting your morning coffee is great, but if you're really into coffee, into the experience, into the different kinds of shots you would pull or pour overs or cold brews or all those things, there's a whole like multi-layer thing beyond just like getting a latte that you can be open to in this. And I think this is a great opportunity to highlight some of that.
Definitely, yeah. A lot of the folks that are traveling in from around the United States are so much more qualified than myself, Lucas, a lot of people that we even work with, specifically in like the tech world. So people that have been, so like Double J from Black Rabbit. Black Rabbit is basically, they sell equipment, they service equipment, they offer education on equipment. And Double J's coming in and he's just going to do tech classes. We're going to pull apart an espresso machine, pull apart a grinder, put it back together. And those are things that you just don't learn until you have the opportunity to, because something breaks. So this is like, we now have the opportunity to say, hey, come in, we're going to show you how to do some preventative maintenance. And these are things that a lot of folks travel to pay for.
It's interesting that you mentioned about when it breaks, because I think about over the pandemic, my roommate has an espresso machine, and that's when I learned how to repair it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and like him discovering the concept of preventative maintenance and all those things, where it's like, oh, you've got to care for this, because this stuff is actually like an art, and there's actually a whole process to it. It's so much more than auto drip brewer or whatever. There's so many more flavors, types of beans, ways things interact. Like, there is so much to dig into this if one cares to, you know?
Definitely. Yeah. In those first few days of Detroit Coffee Week, and actually so important to us, so on Monday and Tuesday, we're offering those barista foundational classes for free. Those classes don't exist for free, by the kindness of Claudio Martinez and then Trevor Corlett. They're both ASTs. Claudio's the one who started SoFlo Coffee Collective, and he's a professor of coffee for SCA. And then Trevor Corlett is one of the owners of Madcap. He's going to be there also instructing these classes. You can't sign up for these for under $500. I've never seen it. And so to allow for, again, folks to come in and be like, we're going to educate you on all of the things that will help you advance in your career, like Lucas was talking about. We're so excited. Yeah.
And as a lot of people don't notice about me is I am a former barista myself.
Oh.
And you know, there is a lot about, in many ways, just like wine, just like many other luxury consumable goods, even though I don't consider coffee a luxury, but it's not water. So
We'll try and change your mind on
so
that.
it's extra. Yeah, it's not H2O, so it's extra. But a lot of folks don't know just how much goes into the process of making a good cup of coffee. And so when you're talking about classes, we talked about, you know, preventative maintenance of machinery, but what are some of the classes that people can take during Detroit Coffee Week that can actually teach them more about coffee itself?
I think what I'm most excited about is this importer cupping on Thursday, because this might not be as much technical training as it is actually exposing people to the supply chain. And while next year we'll definitely have more like hands-on training, we do have a latte art class that is going to be fun for some folks who just kind of want to like play around and like learn and experience the more artistic side of it. But this importer cupping that's happening on Thursday, we have 7 different importers, exporters, folks that are actually the ones talking to the producers at farm level and, you know, bringing coffee into the United States. They're going to be there to showcase different coffees and to have different roasters and baristas and folks in the room to be able to meet with the people who are actually doing that direct trade for us is a whole eye-opening experience to be able to see.
Yeah, those are the people that we build relationships with, right? We get to have that accessibility, cupping and tasting with them, but the public or baristas who are just, like I said earlier, like just, you know, working at their cafe or whatever, they may not always get invited to be at that table.
Yeah. And I definitely think that there's this like barrier that exists, not with intention, but just because folks aren't necessarily in a roaster every day or to be in a position where you're actually doing green coffee buying. There's not a lot of positions that exist like that. So to be able to like bridge that gap for people who have never been able to stand at a table with a producer or with an importer and exporter and ask them direct questions about the coffees on the table, it's a great opportunity.
I think that's really interesting as well, because not just for myself as, you know, when I was a barista, but also just thinking about so many folks who work at cafes who are baristas. They're kind of, it has never really been that pathway to how do I become something more than like just the manager of the coffee place?
100%.
How do I become a distributor? How do I become a wholesaler? How do I do the things that actually help to establish a brand of coffee or my own cafe? this is something that I find very interesting that you guys are leaning into for Detroit Coffee Week.
Yeah, or even knowing those jobs exist at all, because that's a
Which
huge
is one of the
I was going to mention that
lectures.
because I look at this and I'm very aware of these sorts of things. But look, there's going to be listeners here who sit there and they go, "Well, I go to X chain," and like I don't think about all of the things involved. It's like, oh, if I'm going to go work at X chain, I'm going to do this one cog thing. But I didn't realize there were all these other opportunities in the industry because I'm used to seeing it in one way and in one form.
Right.
Sure.
It's something we talk a lot about at the cafe level, putting my general manager hat on, and it's off something you said, Norris, that it is an interesting relationship in coffee for the public between it really is a commodity that we just kind of use every day. But for people like us and a lot of people in the specialty coffee industry, we're approaching it like it is like a luxury item. Like it's something that we want to source the best coffee. We want to profile it the best. We want to present it the best. And the difference between us and like a specialty, bar where like a bartender is seen as this reference point for a history of liquor and walking you through, you expect to go in and spend $15 and sit down and have a cocktail and have a conversation about what you're tasting versus the people come in and get an iced vanilla latte for us. We're always looking for those opportunities to be able to educate at the counter and looking for those opportunities to how do we help someone who comes in and does just get a coffee from their chain understand actually there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of work done by the producers on the farms in these countries. There's a lot of work by the importers getting it here and by us to make decisions on what coffees to have and how to profile them, down to the brewing specs and the science and the philosophy that goes into curating a menu to then make that iced vanilla latte at the best possible, ability that we can. There's a whole, it's one of the industries that's unique because it's almost so easy for people to walk in and out and not even know. And so a part of this is that opportunity to give tools to baristas to be able to have those conversations at the most nuanced level they can in their cafes, as well as like hopefully, help the public realize, whoa, wait, there's more to coffee than just the caramel macchiato machine at the Speedway.
Yeah. So as we said, Detroit Coffee Week, July 22nd through the 27th. Where can folks go to find more information about Detroit Coffee Week?
At Detroit Coffee Week on Instagram. There is a link tree in there. The Eventbrite page. There are not a lot of tickets left. So sorry, anyone. But I will say my email is on there. If anyone has very specific interest in any of either the presentations or the lectures or the cuppings, or there's anything that they feel would be like really disappointing for them to miss out on, I want them to reach out to me. So go to that link tree.
And are there any events on this schedule that are more leaned towards, say, the public side as opposed to a barista? Would you direct them if somebody's like into coffee but they're not a barista themselves or want to support?
There's some fun stuff.
There's definitely fun stuff.
We're having a latte art competition. If you've never been to that, it's basically a bracket of 32 baristas pouring the best, most beautiful latte art they can, blowing your mind every single time at our Detroit location downtown. Yep, on Thursday night at 8 p.m. So it's open to the public. Drinks provided and coffee being poured. And then we're also having a birthday party for our 15th birthday party as well, just a cookout to celebrate all Detroit Coffee Week on Saturday.
That's at the Ferndale Desert Oasis location.
Awesome.
Yep. So that'll be fun. There's going to be a dunk tank, just so everyone knows.
Norris?
Who's going to be in it?
I'm not doing it.
Yeah, we're looking for someone to be in the dunk tank.
I'm
so
not
if
doing
you guys are
wrong person.
Daily Detroit dunk. It's actually, thank you so much, Pleasantries, for the dunk tank.
It's an alliteration. I'm scared. We might have to do this.
Yeah, we might.
Please. Daily Detroit dunk tank. I love it. And then there is another opportunity that we had was to be able to partner with Dozer Coffee out of Ann Arbor. They have a massive warehouse at their Holmes campus. They're opening that up entirely. It's just going to be a night of fun. We're going to have like cornhole and darts and games, and there's going to be a photo booth and prizes and just drinks and hanging out to be able to like network in a casual setting where you're just able to hang out with your coffee buds. If anyone's in Ann Arbor, wants to make that little drive, it's going to be fun.
Awesome. Well, Emily and Lucas, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you on Daily Detroit, and we'll put links to everything in the show notes.
Thank you.
All right, and we are done for today. Thank you so much for listening to your Daily Detroit. And thank you to our members on Patreon, patreon.com/Daily Detroit. Our monthly members really make local content, frankly, able to happen. I appreciate you so very much. I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Norris Howard.
Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.